Imagine you and your friends ordered a pizza. You ate 3/8 of it, while your friend ate 2/8. How much of the pizza was eaten altogether? These are called fraction word problems. These apply the previous skills such as simplifying and performing the four operations with fractions. So welcome back to the LRC, and in this episode, we will discuss how to easily understand and solve word problems regarding the four basic operations with fractions. To start, first let's define what a word problem really is. A word problem involving fractions is a real-life application of the four operations on fractions. It is really easy to solve when It's really easy to solve these when one is familiar when performing the four operations with fractions, but requires additional analytical skills in order to help oneself identify the correct operations to apply. Here's the method we at LRC use to solve word problems. First, we're going to read the problem carefully and identify important information. Second, we're going to determine what is being asked of the word problem. And third, we're going to decide which operation to use, or operations if it's multiple steps. Addition when it's about combining amounts. Subtraction is about finding what remains. Multiplication is about finding a part of a part. Division is sharing equally or finding how many groups. 4, you'll solve the problem which you already learned in like all the other previous videos. And 5, you'll simplify and double check your answer, which is also in another old video. So yeah. With this in mind, let us hone our skills through providing examples for each operation. So for our first example, we have this one. Sophia ate 1/4 of a pizza and her brother ate another 1/4 of the pizza. How much of the pizza did they eat altogether? Since the word problem is asking for how much did they eat altogether, this problem implies that we need to add the fractions that they ate together. So given that Sophia and her brother each ate 1/4 of the pizza, let's write that down, okay? So let's write that. 1/4 plus 1/4. We have to add them together and we'll calculate that the total amount that they have is 2/4. But this isn't the final answer. And if you watch our old videos, you still have to simplify it further. So we will get 1/2 in the end. And in its simplified form, 1/2 is the final answer. Remember, we always need to simplify our fractions, okay? For a second example, we have Tiffany. Here you go. Tiffany baked a cake and sliced it into 8 equal slices. She gave 3/8 of the cake to her friends and later gave 1/4 to her family. How much of the cake does she have left? Since this question is asking about how much of the cake it has left, it implies that we first need to find out how much she gave in total, then subtract it from the whole cake. But first, we need to convert 1/4 into 8. Since okay, here we're gonna have 8 out of 8 minus 3/8 plus 1/4. Okay, but we first have to simplify this. So since 8 is the common denominator, we have to multiply both 4 and 1 by 2 to get over 8, and we're gonna get 3/8 plus 2/8, and that's gonna be 5/8. So 8 minus 5/8 is gonna be this 8/8 because it's one whole, because she divided the cake into one whole, by the way, just if you didn't realize, but like this is one whole when we're trying to find the remainder, and we're gonna have 3/8, and this is the most simplified form, so this is gonna be our final answer, okay? For a third example here, I'll give you guys a second to do that. Enzo has decided to bake cookies. In this recipe, it states that 3 cups of sugar is needed for one batch. However, he decides to only make 2/3 of the batch. How much of the sugar will be needed for Enzo's cookies? I'll give you guys a second to solve it. Okay. Done? Okay. Given that Enzo only needs enough sugar to make 2/3 of the batch, we need to multiply the total sugar needed to make one batch and multiply it by 2/3, which is already here. And because we know that in the original batch, for one whole of the batch, he would need 3/4, then that's what we will multiply it by. 3/4 by 2/3 to get how much sugar he needs to make the batch this time. So we're gonna multiply this and this for multiplication, and we're gonna have 6 over 12. But wait, there's something wrong. And if you notice it, you're probably gonna be right, because the something that is wrong is that it is not yet simplified. So you do have to simplify it, and in the end, he will only need 1/4 of the original batch, or when 1/4 cup of sugar. That is gonna be our final answer. Actually, wait. If it's word problems, something to keep in mind is that the final answer, most of the times in tests, they'll ask you to write it in final sentences. So here, what that will look like is gonna be 1/2 cup of sugar, and that's what your final answer is supposed to look like in test. So in the test, as much as possible, make it full sentences to avoid losing points. So yeah. Okay, here's our fourth problem. For our fourth and final example, we have Philip. Philip needs to make bookmarks. A ribbon is 3/4 meters long, and each bookmark requires 1/8 meter of ribbon. How many bookmarks can be made with the ribbons Philip has? Okay. We have 3/4 and 1/8. What are you gonna do with them? Okay. Since this problem asks how many bookmarks that measure 1/8 meters, that the total amount of ribbon can be divided into, then it means we're gonna have to divide 3/4 by 1/8. Okay. But in order to do that, we must multiply 3/4 by the reciprocal of 1/8, which is just gonna be, because it's gonna get turned into 3/4 times 8 over 1. Oops, my pen is not working. 8 over 1. Okay? Or just 8. But for this example, it's going to be 8 over 1 to make it easier. Okay. Let's multiply that here. 3/4 times 8 over 1. And we're going to get 24 over 4. And that's going to be... No, it's actually not going to be our final answer. I'm joking. You have to simplify that further. Divide both by 4. You have to divide both by 4, and we're gonna get in the end 6 over 1, or simply just 6. So you can make 6 bookmarks with this amount of ribbon. Gets? Okay. Today we learned the different operations in fractions word problems, and how fractions can be applied in our daily lives. Using the 5-step method shown in the start of the video, solve these practice problems for practice. Where are they? Okay, wait, I will just copy this. Solve that, guys. Whoops. Solve that, guys. I'll give you a few minutes to do it. I'll do it with you, actually. Okay. First up is a tank. Okay, we know it's 1/5. It's 1/5, and another 4-5 liters, or how much water is in the tank now? 4/10. Okay, guys. We know the tank originally had 1/5, right? And they added 4/10. So it's really just asking how much water they added. And here, we're gonna solve it. We're gonna multiply this by 2. It's gonna turn into 210, and the final answer is gonna be 610. But that's not really the final answer, because we still have to simplify, and it's gonna be 3/5. Okay, that's the first one. Second problem is a chocolate bar was divided into 10 pieces. So that's one whole bar. That's 10 out of 10. We know that's a given. And then he ate 4 of it. How much is left? So it's basically subtraction, because we're looking how much is left, the remainder. So that's 4 out of 10, and it's gonna be 6 out of 10. Final answer, that's a 6 out of 6. 6 out of 10. Final answer. Okay. Jake walked 3/4 of a kilometer, but he only completed 2/3 of it before getting tired. How far did this walk get completed? Okay, so we know that this doesn't make sense. I think he planned to walk 3/4 of it. Okay, 3/4. We're trying to look for 2/3 of 3/4. So this is multiplication again. This is gonna turn. We're gonna multiply the numerators with each other. And we're gonna get 6, and then we're gonna multiply the denominators. And we're gonna get 12. But that's not our final answer because we still have to simplify. Always remember to simplify. Actually, this is also not simplified. This is still 3 out of 5. Always remember to simplify. It's gonna be 1/2. 1/2 km was walked. Anyway, okay, here. A 3/4 meters rope is cut into pieces that are each exactly 1/8 meters long. So, a 3/4, it was divided into pieces that are 1/8. So it's division, right? But we know that division is in short just the same as multiplication, but we flip the reciprocal. So it's 3/4 times 8/1, and then we get 24/4. We get 6/1, which is just equal to 6 simplified. So he can make from this 3/4 meters rope, he can make 6 pieces of rope. Okay? Thanks guys for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe and all of the above. We hope you learned something, and if you want us to cover any other topics, please comment it below, whether it's for a test or whether you just want to learn it out of curiosity. We will try to cover that lesson that you want to learn, because that's our goal. We want you guys to learn everything. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.